just by way of background, I've worked for a number of companies in my career. I've come out of a transport background. I've worked with TNT, Brambles, Ansett, Border Express for many years, and Scott's. I was the second Scott's in 37 years. So I've been around trucks and how to manage workshops nearly all my life, and of course I've seen a variety of different experiences. I've had a variety of different experiences. One of those that come to mind, of course, is at Scott's. We had 8 workshops around the country. It was a multi-state business. It was a national business, multi-sector serviced, including fuel and general freight and all sorts of products. But we had about 75 mechanics over 8 workshops, and I'd move around the country in my rounds from time to time as CEO, and I'd go through the workshops and I'd see a variety of different standards. The skill and the knowledge of the mechanics is fantastic. Couldn't fault it at all. But the ability to be able to run a smooth, efficient and profitable workshop was very difficult and varied greatly between all the examples. I'd go to one and see I remember being in Shepparton and they had a beautiful workshop. You could eat your lunch off the floor. I asked him why the truck seat was sitting on top of his office, up on top of his office, and he said, "Well, that's for spare parts." And it was at that point I realised, well, what about if we need spare parts for a seat in Darwin? Instead of buying a whole new seat or buying spare parts would take weeks to get, why couldn't we have this online and be able to use a system that actually integrated between all the workshops? At that point, back in 2011, 2012, we were a long way from getting anything that Kynnection's got available right now. And of course, if we had this, it would have been fantastic for us. But you've got to understand the workshops are one of your most important expenses. After labour, after fuel, comes workshop. It's probably in there with rent as well. But the real issue is it's very difficult to manage the costs. And unless you can see what's going on, unless you have transparency of the process, you can't really be sure. We were prosecuted under chain of responsibility when it first came in back in 2012 by the New South Wales RMS. I'd been there approximately 5 months, so I can't take full responsibility for it. But the issues that they rose were based around whether the trucks were roadworthy and whether we'd completed the tasks that had been put to us by the drivers in their sheets and completed them, and being able to prove that they were completed. Now, they came to us. They wanted four years of records. Keep in mind, these are all paper-based back in those days. But they wanted 4 years of records. We gave them to them in about 24 boxes, and they gave them back to us 6 months later and asked us to put a filing system in. But they didn't find a fault. In other words, we were doing the job, but we just weren't organised well enough to be able to do it properly and to make it as smooth and as easy as possible. And that's what I think Kynnection's really got onto here, is the fact that they've now understood that the operational side of your workshop is really important to make sure that all your processes are standardised, they're documented, and they're accountable. And of course the process change we're getting is fantastic. It really is. To be able to see now that not only are we getting our parts management and our usage tracked more consistently, but we're also getting our payroll costs in there as well. It's just fantastic. It really does put a true cost centre back into the workshop, and that workshop should then be accountable for the costs that it incurs to the business and be able to be managed accordingly. And then those costs put back into your costing models, which then reflected in your pricing to your customers in an accurate way, not in a close enough is good enough sort of perspective. So I'm really pleased to be able to share some of those experiences with you. More than happy to talk some more if you'd like, but I don't want to take up too much time with the team. I think you've got some great things happening here. The industry needs this sort of visibility, this sort of transparency, and this sort of accountability, because it really does put those operators that take this on in front of the others. So with that, I'll hand back over to you, and thanks for the opportunity for a chat.